Roman is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French Toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our stream. Right?
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mark It Down podcast. It is Thursday night. You know what that means. We're in the Gym Packed Zone, where we cover all things TNA and Impact. I'm James Gisanti, and I'm going to lightly guide us through this excellent episode of Impact as we are on the road to Bound for Glory. I apologize for missing last week, guys. One of those weird instances of life just sort of getting in the way. I promise I'll make it up to you. We're getting closer to Bound for Glory. I can't wait to watch that show with you guys. I can't wait to go over everything coming up that we could be excited for. But excellent card that's shaping up to be, honestly. I think tonight did a great job of continuing that path. Obviously, last week's episode of Impact, tonight's episode of Impact, were unfortunately impacted by Hurricane Helene and all the issues that they were facing trying to get this taping going, that they got moved over to Nashville from, I believe, South Carolina. Obviously, we're sending our best to everybody who is dealing with the impact of Hurricane Helene and now the impact of Hurricane Milton. Sending our best wishes to everybody and hoping everybody's okay. But hopefully trying to focus on the positive and hopefully trying to focus on the good old wrestling to get us through our nights. We're going to start with the top of the show as Masha Slamovich, the Knockouts World Champion Jordynne Grace, teamed up with NXT star. We're going to call her a star. This has been one of the better grabs, and I am all for it. Sol Ruka, as they take on Tasha Steelz, Rosemary, and Wendy Chu. Now, if that feels like a weird team, you're not wrong. It is a weird team. That is a weird trio. Well, I guess 2 and 1, because Tasha does not go with Rosemary and with Wendy Chu, and I think they suffered for it because obviously that was the losing team tonight. The match itself, hit all the spots you would expect it to, but the story coming out of it is how strong Masha Slamovich looks, almost to the point that maybe, just maybe, Jordynne Grace is a little nervous and a little scared of taking on Masha. The finish coming after Sol Ruka hitting her finish, which quite frankly, I still can't, I've been watching this woman wrestle for some time now between TNA and NXT. I can't explain what her finish is, but it is amazing. It is amazing. It's a great spot. It's a great move. And it's so flashy. I can't justify anyone ever getting hit with it, but it's amazing to watch. So it's been really a pleasure to see Ruka in TNA on Impact. But after Masha hits a snowplow onto Tasha, she backs up into a blind tag from Jordynne, from our Knockouts champion. Jordynne then hits the Juggernaut driver onto Tasha and gets the 1-2-3. Definitely didn't feel like we needed it. Definitely didn't feel like Masha couldn't have gotten the pin herself. But interesting way to go. Interesting way to develop this little unexpected turn in the story. Maybe our Juggernaut isn't as confident or as unbeatable as she wants to believe, or as we've believed all this time. So strong matchup. I'm loving the Rosemary Wendy Chu connection continuing. And I do want to touch on the fact that it was interesting to me. We did not have a TNA presence at all on NXT this week. There was some references. Obviously, they spoke about Wesley speaking about dropping the dead weight that is Zachary Wentz and the Rascals, and obviously Trey Miguel there, but no appearances. So I don't know if that was just scheduling, because the TNA talent did have their tapings on Saturday and Sunday, I believe, or they had them last week, late last week. So I don't know, and hopefully that was a one-off. But hey, NXT talent appearing on Impact with TNA talent not appearing on NXT is an interesting direction that this might be going. Too early to tell, obviously, but we shall see. Moving elsewhere, going backstage, we had a Northern Armory interview as Mean Gia Miller, the hardest working woman in TNA, interviewed Josh Alexander and his new crew, his new boys, Judas Icarus and Travis Williams. Gia definitely came in maybe a little hot. I'm not going to criticize her ever. But Gia confronting Josh about his actions and the way, and sort of asking a very pointed question that Josh took exception to. And he reminds her that she's just an interviewer here in TNA, which, how dare you, Josh? And he says that he did take advice from Eric Young, and he did recruit some young, promising talent in TNA, and he does intend on nurturing the future of TNA. Them attacking Steve Macklin and Eric Young, it's just because, in his words, they got in his business. They didn't mind their own. So very interesting to see. And they are now, as I said, going by the Northern Armory, because apparently Canada does everything better, according to Josh Alexander. If you say so. We then had a do I not have a I don't have it here. I'll create this banner right now. We had an in-ring segment with Nic Nemeth, our TNA world champion, where he is talking about the upcoming Bound for Glory pay-per-view. Nick is interrupted by his challenger, the man we all believe in, Joe Hendry. Sorry, just going through my notes here. After I thought, of course, this was a good touch, like the Beetlejuice that he is himself. It was after Nemeth said Joe Hendry's name, and of course he did appear. Hendry asked Nemeth about, he mentioned saying, Nic Nemeth is one of the best wrestlers to have ever laced his boots in the last 20 years. He has nothing but complimentary things to say about our world champion. He says, and Nic Nemeth says, yeah, you're nothing to scoff at either. Shawn Michaels, of all people, believes in Joe Hendry. And, you know, from Nic Nemeth, that's quite the compliment. But Joe Hendry says he appreciates name-dropping legends, but there is one legend he's concerned about, and that's JBL. And that's whether or not JBL will have any influence in their upcoming match at Bound for Glory. Nemeth says that he has nothing to worry about with JBL. It's just he's not understanding the reality of their situation. And if there is anyone to worry about, it's the man who has stolen the show for the past 10 years. And he says he has no intention of losing that belt. They are both looking forward to the main event of Bound for Glory, and they are now interrupted by First Class, AJ Francis, and Casey Navarro, which, again, as my bottom says, as my little header says, I am a Casey Navarro mark. I think he fits in so well with AJ Francis. I am waiting for the return of Rich Swann. I think that will be a fun trio. But I think Casey Navarro has turned lemons into lemonade. I think this kid has found a nice spot here in TNA, and I think it's just the beginning for great stuff. So I just needed to put that out there. AJ saying that he doesn't understand why they're calling themselves the main event for Bound for Glory when First Class is the main event of anything, of every event. He says it's also something that needs to be noted that according to him, Joe Hendry, he made Joe Hendry. He said people only started to take notice of Joe Hendry after he started singing those songs about AJ Francis. Hendry, of course, then reminds us of what those tunes were, getting the crowd into it, starting some lyrical notes. And as the trash talk commences and as they are about to come to blows, the director of authority, Santino Marella, says that he sees the chaos that's brewing and he loves it. So he makes that our main event tonight. World champion Nic Nemeth teaming up with number one contender Joe Hendry against First Class. Not a bad main event. Makes you wonder what the main event was going to be if they didn't book that match, but we try not to think about these things. This is professional wrestling. We then go to an Ash by Elegance vignette as she and the concierge, the Iceman, are heavily involved in a makeover for Heather Reckless. Words like filler, words like trailer park, words like collar were used, and I'm very interested to see what they're doing with Reckless. They were working her over from her hair all the way down to her feet, and I think we're going to have a very different look for Heather Reckless when we see her next, probably next week, but not what I think anybody was expecting when she signed with TNA. Not what I think anybody was, I don't want to say hoping for, because I think this is a fun little story that they're telling. And I love that we get these women's stories without a title involved. But very interesting way to get the ball rolling on Heather Reckless. And let's see if she's actually going to stick with this or if she's going to rebel against Ash by Elegance. The Knockouts division definitely needs more teams. That tag team division is barren right now. So maybe this is the way to go. I'm not complaining. Regardless, we then go back to the ring as we have a match with Josh Alexander taking on Eric Young. The match itself was fine. You know, it hit the spots you would expect it to hit at this point. I have nothing against Eric Young. I like Eric a lot. It's just, you could tell he's definitely slowed down a little bit in recent years, and that's fine. No judgment there. He's a legend for a reason. But I think you know what you're, like I said, I think you know what you're getting when you get a Eric Young match. And he did get the upper hand for a little bit there towards the end where it looked like he was building some momentum. But the Northern Armory, Judas Icarus, and I'm blanking on his name. Give me one sec. Travis Williams got involved, distracting the referee and allowing some underhanded tactics to come about and allowing some interference to happen, giving Josh the opportunity to get the win and pin Eric Young. After the match, Eric does not like this. He does not take this lying down, and he tries to attack Alexander, but the numbers game is too much for him. The 3-on-1 is too much for him. We're all wondering where Macklin is. We're all wondering where his partner is when we go backstage and we see that Macklin has been thrown through some wooden pallets and he is zip-tied. Being incapacitated, Eric Young is by himself. They wrap a chair around his ankle, hold him down, and then Josh Alexander jumps from the top rope, knee first, right into that steel chair, just destroying Eric Young's ankle. I think this is going to lead to a very exciting matchup between Macklin and Alexander. I think that's really the money match, especially going into Bound for Glory. But it'll be interesting to see this dynamic changed as we have a babyface Steve Macklin taking on a heel Josh Alexander. That's not something we've gotten before. That's not something we've seen before, and I'm all for it. I think heel Josh Alexander is working out beautifully, and you guys know I've been a proponent of babyface Steve Macklin. So a lot of fun stuff coming up with those two guys, and I don't know who comes out on top. I feel like it has to be Alexander. I feel like it has to be, but I'll be rooting for Steve Macklin. We then go backstage with an interview, or what was supposed to be an interview with Jordynne Grace. Gia Miller trying to ask her some questions, but Jordynne is a woman on a mission, and she goes to Masha Slamovich's locker room. She's followed by Gia Miller. Both women showing their surprise, their shock, and I guess a little bit of disgust as we see that Masha has her kill wall set up again. Something we haven't seen in a long, long time from her, since before she entered the tag team division with Killer Kelly a long time ago now at this point. We see a lot of the knockouts, almost the entire knockouts division, X'd out pictures with one face up top in the middle, not X'd out, and that being our champion, Jordynne Grace. I think Gia Miller really did a great job of selling the shock and horror of the situation, and we're starting to see the cracks a little bit in the confidence of our champion, Jordynne Grace. Really fun bit, and something we will follow up on a little bit later. We then go back to the ring for an in-ring promo from Mike Santana. Santana is fired up. And I do want to give Mike a little bit of a shout out here. We got to see him last week, a few members of the pod here at House of Glory, where he is the champion. He is the world champion of House of Glory. And he had a hell of a performance against Jay Lethal. Great matchup between both men. There was a bit where we believed that Mike had gotten hurt early on, and he sold his injury the entire match. It was an excellent performance from this rising star. I have been mostly pro Santana ever since he's reached TNA. I am fully on board with him. I think promos like tonight, performances like what I saw at House of Glory, and just this momentum that he's building with the crowd, it's all leading to a great, great spot for Mike. So really rooting for Santana, and I think this feud with Moose is really, really going to elevate him. Win or lose. I'm hoping for the win, but win or lose, I think he's going to be super elevated by this matchup. Santana's cutting his promo, calling out Moose, saying that he was going to take him out the same way he laid out the system in their locker room 2 weeks ago. Moose interrupts and says that he has gotten the best security available to not deal with this nonsense again, saying that Santana was nothing but a dumbass. However, Santana retorted by saying Moose was being a bitch for hiring security, but Moose said he was justified in bringing security for protection because they came from the same background. Santana says that Moose is just like him. They came from the same spot. They had the same upbringing, and it's just Moose is further along, and Santana will get there. He says the biggest difference was that Santana still walked the streets he grew up in, while Moose forgot where he came from. Moose is a professional. I'm so sorry, guys. Moose responded by saying he did forget who he was because it helped him grow as a professional and the face of the franchise, while Santana was just some kid from the projects. This got Santana heated up, who went out to attack Moose, but it was a setup as the system were there waiting. Brian Myers, JDC, and Eddie Edwards, they start attacking Santana, but the ABC come out to try and make the initial save. Again, the numbers are just not on their side until their opponents for this upcoming match, the Hardys, come out, and now the numbers are on the babyfaces' side. They drive the system away, but Santino Marella appears and makes it official. Moose versus Mike Santana at TNA Bound for Glory. I think this is going to be a fun grudge match. I'm here for it. And I think this was a good way to keep this story moving forward, because we have seen just a lot of backstage attacks. We have seen a lot of promos at this point. Now that we're official, we've hit that next level in the feud. So very well done. But like I said, this led directly into the Hardys versus the ABC. Ow. Because you guys know, the Hardys are my team. They are my favorite tag team in all of professional wrestling. Jeff Hardy, my guy, despite everything. He is my guy. But I love me some ABC. I love me some Ace Austin. I love me some Chris Bay. Those kids are the future. no doubt in my mind. Whether it's the future of TNA or the future of another company, they are the future. So, seeing a match like this, but at the same time, you love to see it. I thought the matchup itself, they never really hit that next gear that they needed. We got a lot of tag team spots. The Hardys had control for most of the matchup. And let me say, I'm glad there's a name for this new move, as we have the twist of fate into a neck breaker from Jeff and Matt onto, I think they hit it onto Austin. I'm not sure if they hit it on the Bay, but I love this new move of theirs. Is it a little contrived? Sure, that's fine. But I think it's such a nice setup for the eventual Swanton Bomb finish. Beautiful. Jeff hits the twist of fate. Matt hits a neck breaker off of the bounce from the twist of fate, and then you go into that Swanton. Beautiful 1-2-3 punch. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. I saw when they started introducing it a couple of weeks back, and I'm glad that it seems to be sticking around. But as fun as the matchup was, like I said, we never really hit that next gear, but that's because we had a non-finish, as the System's Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards came out and interrupted the match, attacking both the ABC and the Hardys. It should be noted that before the match, when Santino Marella was coming out and he booked the Moose and Santana match, he did tell the System to pay attention to the tag match because there would be implications of whoever wins probably going on to Bound for Glory to challenge for the championships. This interference did not go unnoticed by Santino, who came back out and revealed that because the System interfered, they will now defend the TNA tag titles against both the ABC and the Hardys. But the added little cherry on top is this will be a full Metal Mayhem match. Guys, it's been a while, I think, since we've got one. It's going to be hardcore. We're going to get tables. We're going to get ladders. We're going to get chairs. Oh, my. And it's going to be a lot of fun. This is the type of match that the Hardys got famous in. This is the type of match that I think the ABC will thrive in. And this is the type of match that the System have to be very worried about. So excellent announcement going into Bound for Glory. Like I told you at the start of the show, they're really making this card exciting. So the more, the merrier. More of this, please. We then go to a triple threat, as the future of the X Division Championship is on the line, as we have a number one contenders match between Laredo Kid, Leon Slater, and Jason Hotch. This match, it's so weird because I feel like we've been getting so many of these lately. We've been getting so many multi-man matches for the X Division Championship, at least for contender spots. So, and they're very paint by the numbers. None of it's bad. You can't have a bad match with Laredo Kid. He's awesome. And the more and more I watch of the good hands, whether it's John Schuyler or Jason Hotch, I keep getting impressed with them. They are the good hands for a reason. These guys know what they're doing, and they have a great way of facilitating matchups. And Leon Slater, who's still so young, has been doing nothing but impressing with all of his TNA appearances. So it was a fun matchup, but you're getting just high spot after high spot and pin attempt after pin attempt. None of it's bad. It's entertaining, especially if you're there in the crowd, but it's just hard to really keep track of. It's hard to really sink your teeth into it. But again, the matchup was fun. On commentary, we had the X Division champion, Speedball Mike Bailey, joining the table. And there was a really fun bit where Matthew Raywald asked Speedball, of these men, who do you want to face? Is there someone you would want to face? And Speedball said, whoever wins. And it just sent Raywald flying, because it's like, that's such a cop-out answer. But Speedball followed it up with something that I did like. It's like, I want to face whoever wins simply because that means they earn the shot at me. I want to test myself against someone who's earned that spot with me. So I do like that. It's really helping with Speedball's fighting champion persona that he's been cultivating with his last X Division run and this current one, which basically feels like one big run. That Zachary Wentz interruption. Again, I'm happy for Wentz, but that was just a bad decision in my opinion. So yeah, I really like that. The finish coming with Leon Slater getting the pin on Jason Hotch after a 450 swanton. I don't know how these people flip like this. I don't know how these people move like this. It shouldn't be possible. It shouldn't be possible. It doesn't make any sense to me. But he did it. I've never seen anything like it, I don't think. It looked great. And with that, Leon Slater is the #1 contender for the X Division Championship. And that matchup will happen next week on TNA as Leon Slater challenges Speedball Mike Bailey. So, fun match to look forward to. We then go backstage where Jordynne Grace... No, I'm so sorry. We don't go backstage. We go back in the ring as Jordynne Grace calls out Masha Slamovich and tries to confront her about her kill wall. She says to Masha that she believed that she and Slamovich had an understanding regarding that kill wall and that they moved past it. Slamovich responded that there was no hard feelings, but she has her eyes on finally winning the world title at TNA Bound for Glory, that they had one of the best matches. I think Masha said it was the best match that the Knockouts have ever had. And that she kind of calls out Jordynne on saying that she might be a little afraid of Masha. That she knew that Masha spoke English but never said anything because she needed that spotlight on her. Very interesting thing to go about because obviously this crowd is really into Masha. Masha has earned her way back to that Knockouts title to challenge for it. And Jordynne is obviously Jordynne Grace. She is super popular, but we know that Jordynne more than likely has her foot out the door. She is more than likely going to be leaving TNA in 2025 and going to NXT or WWE, whichever, WWE or NXT. I'd be interested to see if they plan on maybe doing a heel turn for Jordynne on the way out. I hope not. But it would be an interesting dynamic. It would be. So let's see how that goes. I love both women. I'll be rooting for both women. But I'd be lying if I said that I'm not chomping at the bit to see Masha Slamovich finally have the world title around her waist. So time will tell. I did it again, guys. For some reason, anything regarding the champion tonight and the challenger, I did not make a header for. I don't know how that happened, but 1 second. There you go. That wasn't so bad. It didn't take too long. Our main event, as we have the world champion Nic Nemeth teaming with Joe Hendry to take on First Class's AJ Francis and Casey Navarro. The start of the match I really loved, and again, maybe it's because I am marking out for Casey Navarro, but First Class comes out first. Joe Hendry makes his entrance, and he does his usual thing, like he does the spin as the music ends. He gets on the mic to cut a little bit of a promo, but he doesn't get to say much as Casey Navarro sucker punches him, and the First Class beatdown begins. Both men going after the #1 contender, bringing out the most dangerous man, the world champion Nic Nemeth, to make the save. At a certain point, this was really just a one-upsman match. Like, we saw Nemeth and Alexander just trying to, I guess, I don't want to say intimidate the other, but they were both, like, at one point, Hendry hits the danger zone onto AJ Francis. At another point, Nemeth hits the standing ovation onto Casey Navarro, and it's just these guys showing, hey, I know what your shtick is. I thought it was a really good bit. I also got a note. Joe Hendry hit a massive AA onto AJ Francis. I know that we all love Hendry's character work. We all love his comedy bits. The guy is obnoxiously strong. He is shockingly strong. And just effortlessly lifting Francis and then hitting that AA. Wow. Just absolute wow. But the finish coming after Nemeth hits that standing ovation on the Casey Navarro. He follows up with a famouser. This gets the win, and Hendry and Nemeth celebrate. As Nemeth raises the title up, Hendry is seen taking a close look at it, and that's how we go off the air. I thought this was a fun episode. Like I said, we are on the road for Bound for Glory, and the roadmap is much, much clearer than it was before. We know what some of the big matches are. We have our World Championship match. We have our Knockouts World Championship match. We have our tag team title match. And some other grudge matches are being thrown in between, like Macklin versus Alexander. I think we're going to get a lot of that. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to get to Bound for Glory. I'm excited to see where the pieces are going to land afterwards, because with a lot of contracts coming to an end and Bound for Glory being the biggest event of the year for TNA, I think we're going to see some shakeups. I think we're going to see some real shakeups, and I think it's been earned. I think everybody, no matter who ends up winning by the end of Bound for Glory, the setup for this has been very well executed. But guys, that was it. That was tonight's TNA Impact. Thank you so much for joining me here in the Gym Pag Zone for Mark It Down podcast. If you are a new viewer, thank you so much for checking us out. We really do appreciate it. If you are an old viewer or, a regular for us, we love you. You're part of the family. But if you're new, maybe hit that subscribe button, because we cover everything. We cover AEW, we cover WWE, we cover TNA, we cover all major pay-per-views. Like we will be covering Wrestle Dream this Saturday. We try to cover a little bit of New Japan when things are big. We try to cover Ring of Honor when things are big. But yeah, we're pretty much with you guys every night of the week at this point, and it's exhausting, but it's so much fun when we have an audience like you guys. If you want to check us out outside of YouTube, check us out on social media, where we are on Facebook, X, TikTok, and Instagram. We're putting out some funny stuff. Like, quite frankly, it makes me hot and he. But my name is James Gisanti. This is the Mark It Down podcast. More importantly, this is the Gym Pag Zone. And I love you guys. As always, watch wrestling. And as always, watch TNA. Have a good night, everybody.